We are all living in the age of AI, and it's set to completely revolutionize how we work. But, there's this massive problem that's kind of hiding in plain sight. Nearly every single business leader knows they need an AI-ready workforce, but almost nobody is actually building one. So today, we're going to break down why that is, and more importantly, how you can actually close that gap. Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty staggering number that shows just how urgent this is. A recent report found that a whopping 89% of business leaders agree their teams need better AI skills. They're saying it's a top priority. But that's really only half the story.
Because here's the kicker. While almost everyone sees the need, a tiny, tiny fraction, we're talking just 6%, of companies have actually started any kind of meaningful upskilling program. And that huge gap, the space between awareness and action, that's what we're going to dive into today.
And that brings us to the big question, right? Why is this so hard? Why is there such a disconnect? And maybe more importantly, how can your organization get it right? Well, that's what we're here for. We're about to walk through a clear, actionable blueprint to do just that.
Here's our roadmap for this. First, we'll get a handle on the real scale of this AI skills emergency. Then, we're going to build a blueprint, starting with a skills audit, moving on to fostering the right kind of culture, and then deploying the right training. And finally, we'll look at the incredible payoff for getting this right.
Let's be really clear about this. This isn't some nice-to-have thing for a few years down the road. For companies right now, doing nothing about AI skills carries huge risks, while the opportunity for those that invest in their people is, well, it's absolutely massive. And the stakes really couldn't be clearer. Look at this. Companies that are successfully bringing AI into the fold are seeing a 40% jump in the quality of their output and a 25% increase in how fast they operate. I mean, these aren't just minor tweaks. These are total game-changing competitive advantages.
And if you think you have time to wait, think again. The ground is shifting under our feet incredibly fast. The World Economic Forum predicts that a staggering 40% of core job skills will change by next year alone. All of a sudden, continuous learning isn't just a buzzword, it's a survival strategy. Okay, so where do you even begin? Well, the first and maybe the most crucial step is to avoid the one-size-fits-all training trap. You need a blueprint. And that blueprint starts with a skills audit to figure out what you have, what you need, and exactly where the gaps are. It really all boils down to three fundamental questions. First, what are we actually trying to do with AI? What's our vision? Second, who needs what skills to get us there? And third, how are we going to measure success? Answering these questions right up front saves you from wasting a ton of time and money on training that doesn't actually move the needle. And here's a really crucial point. AI literacy looks different for everyone. It is not one size fits all. An executive, for example, needs to understand the big picture strategy and the risks involved. A manager, they're focused on optimizing processes for their team. In your frontline staff, they need to get really good at using these specific AI tools that make their daily work better and faster. But a great plan is useless if you don't have the right environment to execute it in. That's why the next step, and it's a big one, is all about culture. Because at the end of the day, technology is only as good as the culture that embraces it. And it absolutely has to start at the top. When your leadership team actively and visibly champions AI learning, it sends a powerful signal to the entire organization that this is a core strategic priority, not just another passing corporate initiative. Let's be honest, people get nervous about AI. To get past that fear, you have to be crystal clear about the why. You've got to frame AI as a partner, a tool that augments human skills and frees people up to do more creative, more valuable work. It's about making jobs better, not getting rid of them. People will not adopt something they're afraid to break. That's why psychological safety is just non-negotiable. You have to create a space, a sandbox really, where it's safe to experiment, to ask questions, to fail, and to learn from those mistakes without fear. And finally, you have to answer everyone's favorite question. So, what's in it for me? You have to connect the dots. When you link AI skill development directly to career growth, to promotions, to performance goals, you create a really powerful personal motivation for people to jump in. If you need one single data point to prove the power of getting the culture right, this is it. Organizations with clear AI communication see their employees become 5 times more likely to feel comfortable using AI. Think about that. That's not a 5% bump, that's a 500% difference, just from talking to your team effectively.
So you've got the cultural foundation in place. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the how. What are the most effective ways to actually build these skills across your entire organization?
Well, the best learning journeys feel really natural. Think of it like building blocks. It starts with a shared foundation, just some basic literacy for everyone. From there, you get specific with role-based tools. But the real magic happens when people start applying those skills to hands-on, real-world projects, until using AI just becomes a seamless part of their everyday workflow. Now, one of the most critical new skills for pretty much every knowledge worker out there is something called prompt engineering. It's basically the art and science of having a good conversation with an AI. Learning how to ask the right questions in the right way is the absolute key to unlocking the power of these incredible tools.
And the key takeaway here is that there's no single silver bullet. The most effective training is really an ecosystem. It blends formal courses with hands-on projects, offers bite-sized lessons for busy schedules, and it empowers internal AI champions to mentor their peers. You need a mix of everything.
So after all this work, the audit, the culture shift, the training, what's the reward? What do you get for all that effort? Well, the payoff is truly transformational, not just for the company, but for its people too. The results speak for themselves. I mean, yes, of course you get higher productivity and more innovation. That's huge. But look at the human side of this. A remarkable 71% of employees who go through upskilling report higher job satisfaction. People feel valued, they feel equipped for the future, and they're happier in their jobs.
It all boils down to a simple, powerful truth. You can have the most advanced, most expensive AI on the planet, but that technology is completely worthless if you don't invest in the people who need to use it every day. Technology is only ever half of the equation.
So we'll leave you with this one question to think about. Building an AI workforce isn't just about adapting to change that's happening to you. It's about actively designing a more productive, more innovative, and frankly, a more satisfying future. So the question is your organization ready to build it?